My beloved child. Stop scrolling. Not because someone told you to. Not because another voice on your screen is demanding your attention. Stop because something has been trying to reach your heart for longer than you realize. There are moments when heaven whispers. And there are moments when heaven stands at the doorway of your spirit and gently says, "Listen carefully." This message was not delayed by accident. It arrived exactly when it was meant to. This is one of those moments. You have been sensing it, haven't you? A strange shift in the atmosphere. An unexplainable feeling that something beneath the surface is changing. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like the first movement of a flower before it blooms. Like dawn before the sun breaks over the horizon. Like a soul preparing itself for a journey it once feared to take. My child, today I want to speak to you about the one your heart continues to wonder about. The soul connected to yours. The person whose path has been weaving through unseen places. The one who has been moving through a season of silence. A season that looked empty from the outside. A season that felt motionless. A season that caused questions to rise inside you. Questions you never fully voiced. Questions you carried into sleepless nights. Questions you hid behind forced smiles. Questions that lingered when everyone else had gone home. You wondered if anything was happening. You wondered if anything was changing. You wondered if the distance meant something was broken. You wondered whether the silence itself was the answer. But my child, the silence was never the answer. The silence was part of the preparation. Because there are transformations that cannot happen in crowds. There are miracles that begin in hidden places. And there are seasons where I remove noise so a soul can finally hear what it needs to hear. Your soulmate has been walking through one of those seasons. Not a punishment. Not abandonment. Preparation. The quiet phase was never meant to last forever. Yet it was necessary. Because there were pieces of their heart that needed healing. Pieces they tried to ignore. Pieces they buried beneath responsibilities. Pieces they covered with distractions. Pieces they convinced themselves no longer mattered. But heaven sees what people hide. Heaven sees what people avoid. Heaven sees every wound disguised as strength. And while the world saw them continuing forward, I saw what was happening underneath. I saw the moments they sat alone and stared into the distance. I saw the thoughts they never shared. I saw the memories they kept revisiting. I saw the questions they carried. I saw the battles no one knew existed. You may not know this. But there were nights when your soulmate felt emotionally exhausted without understanding why. Moments when their spirit seemed restless. Moments when old emotions unexpectedly resurfaced. Moments when they felt called to slow down. Moments when they found themselves thinking differently. Looking differently. Feeling differently. At first they resisted it. Most people do. Because transformation rarely arrives wrapped in comfort. Real change often begins with disruption. A shaking. A stirring. A realization that the life you've been living no longer fits the person you're becoming. And that realization has been growing inside them. Slowly. Steadily. Like a flame that refuses to go out. The remarkable thing is that they didn't even notice it at first. The shift was subtle. A thought here. A realization there. A memory returning unexpectedly. A feeling becoming impossible to ignore. And with each passing day, something inside them began awakening. Not all at once. Layer by layer. The way sunlight slowly fills a dark room. My beloved child, what you need to understand is that some souls experience growth through action. Others experience growth through stillness. Your soulmate's transformation has been unfolding in stillness. That is why so much appeared quiet. That is why so much remained hidden. What seemed like inactivity was actually internal movement. What seemed like distance was reflection. What seemed like delay was development. And now, something extraordinary is beginning. Because the season of reflection has reached a point where it can no longer remain hidden. What grows in secret eventually reaches the surface. What heals in silence eventually changes behavior. What awakens within the soul eventually alters the direction of a life. Your soulmate is approaching that threshold. The doorway between who they were and who they are becoming. And my child, thresholds are sacred places. Because once crossed, there is no returning to the old version of yourself. There is only forward. Only growth. Only becoming. That is why the energy surrounding them feels different. Even if you cannot explain it. Even if you cannot prove it. Even if nothing obvious has happened yet. Your spirit has sensed movement. Because your spirit notices things before your eyes do. Your heart has been detecting a change before physical evidence appeared. And that is not imagination. It is awareness. The soul often hears footsteps long before the mind understands who is approaching. Something beautiful is taking shape. But before I reveal more, there is something else you must understand. The quiet phase affected you too. You have not emerged from this season unchanged. While you were focused on wondering about them, I was also working within you. There were lessons you needed. Strength you needed. Wisdom you needed. Growth you needed. You were learning patience. Learning trust. Learning how to remain standing when answers were unavailable. Learning how to move forward even when certainty was absent. Learning how to protect your peace. Learning how to stop chasing what was not ready. And although some days felt difficult, those lessons have become part of your foundation. You are stronger now. More aware now. More resilient now. The person who entered this season is not the same person reading these words today. That matters. Because souls do not reunite at old versions of themselves. They meet at the level they have grown into. And growth has been occurring on both sides of this connection. More than you realize. Much more. There is a reason you kept feeling pulled to this message. A reason your attention landed here. A reason your spirit whispered, keep listening. Because something important is unfolding beneath appearances. Not a fantasy. Not an illusion. A transformation. A genuine shift. The kind that changes future chapters. The kind that redirects timelines. The kind that causes people to wake up one day and realize they are no longer who they used to be. Your soulmate is beginning to see things differently. Situations they once tolerated no longer feel acceptable. Patterns they once repeated no longer feel comfortable. Excuses they once believed no longer feel convincing. And every time a soul begins rejecting old patterns, a new future starts forming. Can you feel the significance of that? Because this is where many stories change. Not when someone says the perfect words. Not when a dramatic event occurs. But when the heart becomes ready. Readiness is powerful. Readiness changes everything. Readiness turns possibilities into realities. And readiness has been quietly growing within them. There were moments recently when they felt emotions they could not fully explain. Moments when something reminded them of what truly matters. Moments when they felt a longing that could not be satisfied by distractions. Moments when they sensed that life was inviting them towards something deeper. Something real. Something meaningful. Something worth risking vulnerability for. That realization has been growing stronger. Day by day. Thought by thought. Heartbeat by heartbeat. What makes this remarkable is that they have spent so long protecting themselves. Guarding themselves. Keeping certain doors closed. Yet even the strongest walls eventually become unnecessary when healing begins. And healing has begun. Not perfectly. Not instantly. But genuinely. The walls are changing. The defenses are softening. The resistance is weakening. The fear is losing its grip. And where fear retreats, possibility enters. That is the beautiful change I need you to know about. It is not merely a change in circumstances. It is a change within the soul. Those are the changes that last. Those are the changes that create entirely new realities. The world often focuses on visible outcomes. Heaven focuses on internal transformation. Because when the inside changes, the outside eventually follows. Always. Every time. Without exception. Yet there is another layer to this story. A deeper layer. A revelation that has been hidden beneath everything I have already told you. Because your soulmate has not only been healing. They have been remembering. Remembering parts of themselves they abandoned. Remembering dreams they stopped believing in. Remembering desires they convinced themselves were unrealistic. Remembering truths they tried to forget. And one particular realization has been returning again and again. Unexpectedly. Persistently. Almost as though heaven keeps placing it before them. A realization connected to love. Connected to connection. Connected to what truly matters when everything superficial fades away. At first they pushed it aside. Then they questioned it. Then they examined it. And now they can no longer ignore it. Because the truth has a way of returning until it is acknowledged. The soul recognizes truth even when the mind argues with it. And lately, their soul has been speaking louder than their fears. Much louder. That is why the energy around them is shifting. That is why this season is different. That is why the quiet phase is nearing its completion. Not because someone forced it. Not because circumstances demanded it. Because growth naturally reaches a moment where it seeks expression. The flower cannot remain a seed forever. The dawn cannot remain hidden behind darkness forever. The soul cannot remain asleep forever. And your soulmate is waking up. Not suddenly, but undeniably. There is a difference. A profound difference. The awakening has already begun. The evidence simply has not fully appeared yet. But it is coming. Closer than it seems. Nearer than you think. And as that awakening continues, another development is beginning to emerge. One that neither you nor they fully anticipated. One that has the potential to change the direction of everything. Because while they were moving through this season of quiet growth, something else was happening behind the scenes. Something subtle. Something significant. Something connected not only to who they are becoming, but to what they are about to discover. And my child, what they are beginning to realize may be the very thing that changes the next chapter of this story forever. But that revelation is only just beginning to surface. The pieces are still moving. The realization is still forming. The truth is still approaching the moment when it can no longer remain hidden. And when that moment arrives, when everything finally comes into focus, when the final piece falls into place, when the understanding they have been searching for suddenly becomes clear, the choice standing before them will be unlike anything they expected. And that choice is closer now than it has ever been before. Much closer. Closer than even they realize. For now, listen carefully and hold this message in your heart. The quiet phase was not the end. It was the preparation. The distance was not emptiness. It was transformation. The silence was not absence. It was becoming. And very soon, something connected to this beautiful change will begin revealing itself in ways that cannot be ignored. When it does, you will understand why every delay mattered. Why every unanswered question mattered. Why every hidden moment mattered. Because a truth is rising toward the surface. A truth your soulmate can no longer avoid. A truth that is already changing them from within. And in the next part of this message, I will reveal what that truth is. And why the decision they are approaching may alter the future of this connection in ways neither of you expected.